Okay, so I never have time to make videos, but I thought I'd make one real quick. This is the Sonor HLD 590 Bell Bronze snare drum, 33-pound monster made by Sonor. I got mine in 1998. It was the third one in the United States at that time. And I spoke to the drummer of Maynard Ferguson, who had, I believe, the second one in the United States, and he ranted and raved about it. So I put my order in from Rip Drums in, I think, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Anyhow, it was a graduation present from my parents. Now, we were by no means wealthy or anything, but my dad was a drummer, and he got me hooked on Sonor because he'd been playing them since 1972 or so, and I've been with Sonor ever since. So it was a really forward-thinking gift that they got for me. And considering I'm a professional percussionist now, and that's how I make my living. Although I don't get to play this guy a whole lot, but it is always set up in my studio. So I really, really am a huge fan of this drum, and of course Sonor drums. But it is the only instrument that I own out of the, I don't know, many in here that I would never part with. So, my drum set's rosewood, and it's a great old phonic kit, but, bye-bye tomorrow if I had to. So, this is the underbelly of it, which you've seen on the other videos with the parallel strainer. Throw on and off, which is exquisite. Now, I talked to a Sonor rep a few years ago at PASIC in Nashville, I think it was, and just asked him about it. I said, hey, I know Jack DeJohnette has one of these, I believe Steve Smith does, and I've seen a few of them floating around on the internet and being sold on eBay occasionally. I said, well, how many of these exist in the world? How many did they make? And he emailed me back about a month or two later. Very little info, but he did say that to the best of their records, at Sonor, they only made 200 of these in the entire world. And the serial number really doesn't matter on it. Even I think my serial number is in the 19,000s, but he's like, no, it's 200 or so. And yeah, it's about all he told me. So yeah, it's pretty darn incredible. I got it for my graduation present, like I said, and went to college and got a part-time job, or semi-full-time job, and saved up my money and it's over here. And bought the matching Signature Series, you can see that, bronze snare drum stand, which is one of the few I've ever seen in my life. Most of the time, even in their advertisements, they used a highlight exclusive copper stand. And this is pretty dirty, but it's just like the Signature Series snare drum stands, only it's copper, which is just amazing. This cost me about $450, I believe, in 1989-ish when I got it. And I talked back to Sonor a few times to see if they could make an extension that would make it taller so I could use it as a concert snare drum stand. But because they did make extensions, but those were even hard to come by, and they never made a copper one, which is always a kind of a letdown for me. But to change a head, especially on the bottom one, it takes about 15 minutes because you have to take these protecting bars off. And each of the lugs are shaved on each side, so they only turn a half a crank. So you can't just spin them out like you can on a conventional snare drum. You have to sit there and crank and crank and crank. It really takes a long time. But I've only had to do that a few times, oddly enough. And I think the last time I sent it back, I think they sent me some extra heads with it. But yeah, I sent it back in the early 90s because I was having some pitting problems on the copper. It actually would start to look like rust. And mainly on the rim, and oops, the other way. So they mailed it back to Germany, and I was without my beloved drum for a number of weeks. And hi, here, there's the rest of my kit over there. And they basically replaced all the copper components on it, and their diagnosis or prognosis for it was the oil in my hands that was creating the pitting process, which I didn't really believe because it had never done that since then. copper is in great condition. But a couple of them that I had seen on eBay have just been horrendous looking, as far as like the plating and everything, which Sonor is obviously really known for. And I just think, well, maybe they experienced the same problem. You know, some of these snare drums look like they had been left outside in the winter all year and then brought in spring, and it just looked horrible. It's like, how could you let your a drum like this look like that? But when I bought my drum in 1988, we got probably the best price in the country on it, because these guys really dealt a lot with Sonor, particularly their snare drums. And I paid, or my parents paid, $1,050 for it in change, $1,053 or something. And you know, it was amazing. The drum at that time listed for $1,900. Very shortly after that, they changed the list price to $2,100. And I think when you see them on eBay now, they sell for, you know, $1,800 to $2,000. But rarely do I ever see any. It's in good condition as mine, and not that I clean it every day. Hardly. I leave it set up on my drum set, and even allow my students to play it, which I know they have no idea what they're playing. But it's always funny because I always say, hey, you know, the first time student, hey, why don't you pick that pretty drum up that you like so much? And everyone, young or old, does the same thing. They reach down to pick it up and they pull themselves down on not moving the drum, and they're always like, oh my gosh, you know, because they have no idea. And a lot of times I'll even tell them, hey, it weighs 33 pounds, and they have that means nothing. I could have said it weighs 1,000,000 pounds, it weighs 1 pound, it's irrelevant. But yeah, I'm going to put a little video of me playing on this drum, and it's going to be horrible because I'm not warmed up on it. Just so you can get a basic idea of the sound, and it's all for my camcorder. So later on I'm going to try to put a much better quality audio recording of it up, because I don't think one really exists anywhere. And I really wish somebody like, say, Addictive Drums XLN Audio would sample this particular drum and yeah, have it on their little sample thing so everybody can enjoy it. But you don't want to see me. See this. So yeah, that's my baby, my 33-pound monster. And if I wasn't so weak, this wouldn't be so hard. But yeah, it's simply an incredible drum, and a pleasure to play. I've used it in heavy rock situations, heavy metal situations, jazz situations, classical, symphonic band, virtually everything that you could really imagine. And it is really, truly shined above any other drum I've ever performed on, or played, or looked at, or seen, or anything like that. You know, it has such an earthy sound. It's, one reviewer said it was like a wooden snare drum with a mic on it, and to a lot of degrees I would agree with that. Definitely I noticed when I would do it with a symphony or a symphonic band, my dad, who was usually in the audience to see me perform in college, and also a drummer and a recording engineer, would come up to me and say, that snare drum's incredible sounding. He says, and unlike most snare drums which come over the top of the performing ensemble, this one would actually seem to resonate underneath it. And it was just such a unique, different sound. He said you would only ever hear the snares. You would not hear the tap of the head, of the plastic head. This is quite extraordinary, no question. So this is the Sonor signature Bell Bronze snare drum, and it's a beaut. Any questions, feel free to post it on the YouTube thing, and I always answer. All right, have a great one.